Well, welcome. This is the fourth instalment of the Business Designers for Tomorrow forum, and today we've been lucky enough to have Nigel come in and present for us today. We've got a bit of an agenda to work through, and that's initial welcome. I'll hand over to Christine just to give you some background on where we got to from our last meeting. We'll work through Nigel's presentation, and we'll talk about your potential next meeting topics that you'd like to see that are relevant, and then we'll wrap up and close. And we're looking to go for anything up to 90 minutes. So by all means, asking questions as we go along and raising any comments or statements you'd like to make. So before, without further ado, I'll hand over to Christine, and we'll just kick in for the review of our last meeting.
Thanks so much, Andrew. So Andrew was very gracious in sharing his line of sight model with us at the last meeting. And it was all about how do we get better strategic alignment from strategy to operations or execution, if you like. We had a pretty good attendance, Andrew. Lots of good questions as well. And this week, we're really looking forward to seeing how strategy gets put in place as well to digitize workplaces. Really encouraged by the people that are also picking up the material off LinkedIn as well. So if you find this session useful, it'd be really good for you to share the video once it's downloaded with your friends as well, so that we can get more people joining our community. So that's it from me. Thanks, Andrew.
Excellent. All right, thanks. Okay, so we'll kick in with the presentation. Nigel, do you want to? I'll stop sharing and you'll grab hold of the screen.
Yeah, shall do. Shall do. Okay, see that, Andrew?
Yeah, coming through clear. Yep.
Yes, excellent. Nope, was coming through clear. Okay, so thanks for being able to talk today. When Andrew was talking last time, we were still amidst the COVID-19, and now we're in the second wave. And I mentioned at the time that the digital workplace is a major thing that's people have had to deal with, and companies have had to respond with the COVID-19 process. So it's been a bit of a disaster, health-wise across the world, and also economy-wise. But people have found a way to work from home, and going forward, the digital workplace is going to be very important. So that's a little bit of the outline that I've been speaking to today. And just quickly take you back to 1975. The Business Weekly recommended that we'd be paperless by the early 90s. And I can tell you that didn't happen, because I started one of my first jobs after uni in the early 90s with police as a public servant, and I sat down at my desk, and I was given a pen and a paper to write on, and no computer or nothing like that. And one of the first things I was asked to do was, there was a outbreak of crime in Cairns, and a big spike in crime, and they were going to send up a whole heap of police up to Cairns. And from that, I found out that to investigate that, I went down to the crime area on level 6, and there was a whole heap of dot matrix printouts, and there was one for far northern region, and it sort of looked a bit like that in the right hand corner, like heaps of paper, and there was one pile with far northern region for this financial year. So So what I did is I grabbed all that paper, I found a computer, and then I was able to develop a monthly crime stats report. And it was only one person. It was one person escaped from jail, and he was on a crime spree. So straight away, I was very much into technology and to be able to do that. But I tell you what, early 90s and even 2000s, lots of paper around and in the office. So the digital revolution was kick-started by the personal computers, but the digital transformation that organisations have had has been very good. But the COVID-19 has really kicked things off to really have more of a digital transformation, along with all the issues we've had. So pre-COVID-19, there was still the need for wet signatures, and a couple of places where I've worked, there still is the need for physical signatures, but during COVID-19, that was worked out, and a lot of places had digital signatures replaced. So paper-based forms, a lot of the paper-based forms were replaced with electronic forms. You know, the issues that we've had on the borders, on the Queensland borders and on other borders, where they've had to show forms, you know, actually show forms rather than the registration being recorded and that sort of thing. So there's still a lot of effort that needs to be done. Entering data multiple times and reporting being slow. A lot of the legacy systems, you need to enter the data, and the reporting can be the next month, or it's done through a batch file process. Now, post COVID-19, it looks like the paper elimination is going to happen. So with all the grief that we've had with COVID-19, I think that's one of the things that is finally done. So the paperless office might actually occur. Systems, processes, and experience are being integrated. So that's one of the things about not only the systems, the applications to be integrated, but the integration of experiences through the mobile phone and being able to access things much more freely. That's just a little trip down memory lane, and but let's move on to the digital workplace. Okay, so that might be hidden a little bit, but business as unusual is a term that has been bandied around now. It's not going to go back to the way things were. So we're now in a new state. We're in a remote workforce state, and a lot of things are happening with digital transformation. So during COVID, the remote working was increased tenfold almost overnight, and a lot of organisations weren't ready for that, and it was stretching their existing resources. So a lot of times there was band-aid solutions, costly solutions were put in place, and that's not going to work for a longer period of time. Some of the research, this one's from Gartner, over 80% of business leaders plan to have a hybrid workforce in the future. So that's, you know, 6 months ago, that possibly wouldn't have been the case. So there's big changes. And half of employees are allowed to work from home permanently. So that's interesting as well. Some research done by Robert Walters was they're looking at doing interviews all online and the onboarding online now. So that's particularly when you've got people that have to transfer, move from say Melbourne to Brisbane or something like that. They can do that whole interviews and onboarding process, and they can move in the process to come up. So that's quite a big step forward. And yeah, last week I was in the city, and it's a little bit deserted at the moment. And yeah, I was told that the Suncorp building only has 5 to 10% capacity, and there's a lot of coffee shops closed, and a lot of that is not going to go back to the 100% utilisation that was before. So that's why to have a digital workplace. But there's still many challenges, and I've put them up by people, process, information, and technology. So people are asking, you know, how do I work digitally? how can I share and learn online? Is there a champion I can turn to? Is there someone that can quickly help me with what I need to do? And then the question, can I just work from home now? Like, that presents challenges as well, only working from home. So why is it so complicated? Some of the process issues. Why do we need physical signatures? So those types of questions were asked. So what is a record? We've got OneDrive and we've got SharePoint, but we've got this record system that we used to use. You know, what is a record? When does it need to be transferred? So if you're doing co-authoring, does that need to be a record, etc.? So, and yeah, I've already entered this this data a few times, so I don't want to keep entering it. So why do I need to? Some of the information, can I use my own device? So the ability to use cloud workspaces and be able to access things on your mobile phone. That's been important. So show me the data. You know, what's my usage? What have I been using? Is it my problem rather than the organisation? And how do I get that information on usage rates? So I've got receipts. So sometimes, particularly call centres, etc., they had to get their own headphones, and you know, what's the process to do that? Is there any information in place, and what are the rules? Now, technology is one of the biggest things with digital workplace, and there's been many things, many questions regarding that. So, what use is my desktop device? My desktop device is sitting at work. You know, do I ship it home? What use is that in the future? I thought we were in the cloud, so a lot of say, okay, we've migrated the cloud, but oh, hang on, we can't automatically scale up to allow all these extra people to work from home. So what do we do about it? What's our transition to cloud? Why can't our systems integrate? So that's been a big thing, particularly in government, because a lot of government departments have to work together to get things done for new services. And yeah, whose problem is it? That's another one, because say you ring the help desk, I've got a problem at home, I can't access this, and sometimes it works out that it's your own internet that's the issue. So clear to find, having the organisation having tools to be able to determine where the problem is. Okay, so I've got a high-level approach here. So any sort of digital workplace design needs a strategy, and the strategy needs to be able to look at the long term. It needs to also be adapted to enable quick wins. So strategy comes design, and the design brings the people into the process to work out what the solution is required to do. Capability uplift and roadmap. It's actually lifting the capability across people, process, information technology, and then the transformation, actually putting all the change in place. Okay. So this is a fictitious example. So I brought together some information together, and what I wanted to show there was when you do a strategy like digital workplace or other strategies, you need to first look at what's the organisation strategy say. So for instance, a lot of the people strategies talk about creating and maintaining a collaborative working environment, having the tools that the people need in place. So if you look at, say the people strategy, one of the big things that could come out of that is being collaborative and engaging. And the digital workplace has allowed that, and people have been quite amazed with the, the daily catch-ups, being able to instantly message people and call people is part of that digital workplace. And I guess to define what the digital workplace is, it is the virtual equivalent to the physical workplace, but it has implications on the physical area and the behaviour of people. So one of the things with the physical area, even though digital workplace is virtual, you need to then respond to the changes. So for instance, with so little capacity, less capacity in the office. So for instance, if you've got coming down from 400 desks to 200 desks, people are sharing desks, they need to be able to come in with their device and straight away be able to plug and play. They need to be able to use printers wherever they are and that type of thing. And they also need to be able to have, say, meeting rooms to quickly have a chat, because I remember one time there was only 5 of us in the office, and you could hear what was happening between every meeting that was going on. So these virtual meetings, so it's a change to the open plan and to move to more meeting spaces. So the behavioural thing is, so at the COVID-19, not everyone was, completely up with the new technology. Andrew and I, we had, I had issues the other day with the technology because I've got a brand new PC. So that's the thing. It's having those policies, those support in place to effectively work remotely is important. So even though the digital workplace is around the virtual, it has those implications across the other areas. So the second stage is the design, and there's quite a lot of organisations now using human-centred design, and I've got a link to a toolkit down below for the Queensland Government Toolkit. And one of the good things about the approach that they have is it not only it finds out the problem of where we are, it also looks at whether that's the right problem, and are we solving it the right way, and will the solution, once we've prototyped it, will the solution meet the needs of the people? And I think that's key to be able to not just shove technology down people's throats, to actually ensure that it's meeting the needs of the staff. So I've done a couple of workshops through Miro and Mural, and it's been quite amazing difference to a physical workshop. There's obviously a lot of benefits with a physical workshop and the camaraderie that you get, but it's a lot less messy, and there's no sticky notes to pick up, and it's all recorded online. So for instance, doing the affinity clustering, you can do that quite quickly with an application like Miro, and you can bring together, say, all the roses. So the collaboration through online tools was one of the things that was experienced well with digital workplace. And yeah, the use of Teams as well has been talked about a lot as being very important for collaboration. So one of the thorns here I've got is office space not well set up for online meetings, and also there's it's different when there's a part of the staff are in a meeting room. They seem to dominate compared to the people that are back at home. So those sort of things have got to be worked out in the long term. And yeah, so there's potential to promote more collaboration through the digital platform as the digital workplace takes off in organisations. And quite often at the end, you look at how might we statements, or how can we ensure that everyone can collaborate and leverage our virtual capability and adapt to the physical environment, so that we don't leave anyone behind and everyone's on the journey. Okay, so then we move into the capability uplift. So what areas, based on the problems that we've looked at and the design, what areas do we specifically want to target for an uplift? And I've just used the same people, process, information, technology here for simplicity. So one of the things that is important is training in digital working. So we need to have that training. Okay, so this is the way to start up a Teams meeting. these are the steps. Those types of simple things. This is how to co-author a document, etc. So collaboration schedules, that's important. Have those daily check-ins, have meetings done online. So the agile meetings, so some of those agile meetings might have been done on an agile wall, so they can now be done on, say, Planner or one of the other apps. Establish champions, that's a good way of in a team to look at certain things that people are the best at, and they can be the ones to turn at, so each team can have those. So yeah, I've got digitize everything. So I think being the fact that there's a lot of work from home, it's difficult to do the old paper-based process. So digitizing and automating and simplifying, and even bringing in the robotic process automation and be able to look at the existing processes that you have and then adapt it so that it can be automated. So not just put digitizing, say, a paper-based form to a digital form, actually looking at how that can all be automated. So we've already got that information. How can we just automate it? So BYOD information. So yeah, I'm using my device. You know, do I get compensated for it? How do I use it? Do I use which cloud workspace? Do I use Citrix? Do I use Windows Virtual Desktop? What do I need to do? So all that digital working, that information, plus insights. You know, can I get insights on my working habits? Am I able to get more information from our data available? On the technology, so what is the enterprise digital platform going forward? So how do we address those integration issues? How do we look at having one simple process through a cloud workspace? What tools are available? Can we use these new SaaS tools? Can we have an enterprise license for those types of things? So that's all important. Yeah, so obviously the desktop devices, do we really need desktops anymore? Like, they're not mobile. Do we go to tablets, mobile devices, or do we go down the BYOD track as well, or do we do both? There's a lot of on-premise data and on-premise infrastructure still around, so that doesn't enable us to scale. We can't scale with that. If we try to put something in place, we've got to buy servers, infrastructure, overload the network, etc. How do we just get our applications and our technology to be browser-based so that we can use the cloud and cope for another a change that might happen? So again, I've put together just an example roadmap. So just looking at the top line there, so one of the pain points through COVID-19 is the unable to share and learn. So unable to get that information about how do we cope, human resources, how do we collaborate together. So for instance, here we want to get collaborative groups in place. Share positive programs and then implement. So those horizons could be by financial year, they could be by 6 months, they could be even earlier. So it depends on the area. So I've just got one example for each. I guess the manual processes is also a bigger one, and getting to the stage of actually being able to just sit there and do citizen integration, where you're actually moving data from one place to the other without actually touching the systems, because the data's already been recorded. And if you're moving towards live data, that's able to be automated. Yeah, so on-premise infrastructure, I did mention there, it's costly to scale up. So how can we, in the Horizon 1, how can we implement cloud tools better and start to rationalize those on-premise techs? So how do we retire these on-premise techs and then move and transform to the cloud? So that's been another driver with Digital Workplace, is the move to the cloud and cloud tools and what that offers, and the ability to scale. So, okay, so this is an example technology roadmap in the same horizons. So there was a variety of meeting apps that you could use, and sometimes a variety. It meant it was a little bit difficult for people to use. So say Skype, for instance, is now being deprecated and no longer being supported by Microsoft. So moving to Teams platform could be a way to go for people. But it could be Zoom as well, or some of these technologies, and going with the main ones. And if you do have multiple meeting apps, having that information available to be able to do that. So on-premise, SharePoint on-premise, on files being stored on your G drive, your H drive, that sort of thing. Moving towards SharePoint and OneDrive to be able to do it. I've been caught a few times. The document hasn't saved, but just with the ability, if it's in the cloud, you've got the versions before and everything else, and it makes it so much easier. And in fact, one time I was talking to 6 other managers and team leads, and we're in the one document, changing it all together, and it was just amazing that this type of thing, I don't know, like 3 to 4 years ago, we would be emailing it around, waiting for the email, and then getting the feedback over a couple of weeks. So it was just full on, but it was really much more productive. And yeah, so I talked about the SaaS tools, Miro, Mural, but there's a whole raft of SaaS tools, and as long as they can integrate together, bringing those in as collaboration. And it's quite amazing that a lot of the people in organisations use different tools for other purposes, like with their school or with their group or with their interests. So there's a lot of different SaaS apps that can be deployed and solve different issues. So retired desktop PCs got to be one of the first things. Now there is a need, I guess, for desktop PCs in some instances, but what we found in COVID-19 is they're pretty hard to move. If you're going to ship them home, you've got a bit of back-breaking work to do. So getting a trolley and everything, and just at the moment, it's moving the desktop PCs back to work at the moment. So yeah, so that it's an issue. So transition to BYD, and also transition to mobile device, corporate devices as well. So the virtual the desktop, if it's an on-premise. When you need to up the capacity, like you do with COVID-19, you're faced with a lot of economic cost and additional licenses. So moving to deploying cloud, it could be Citrix Cloud, it could be Amazon Workspaces, Windows Virtual Desktop, but moving to those things that enable scaling is a lot better to have that virtual desktop ability. And integration, one of the issues across government, across organisations, was we had to work together in COVID-19 to put in some new services. So it was difficult when you don't have an integration platform to be able to do that and to publish and share integration. Okay. So I've got the bottom half, which is the realization of the strategy, and this is across the people, process, information technology platform as well. But what I wanted to sort of hone in on here is it's outcome based. So even though we're putting in quick wins, we're putting in new solutions, make sure that that's aligned to the strategies and aligned to the outcomes where we need to go. And this is the bottom half of the strategy, and aligns to the corporate strategy, the people strategy, etc., digital. So aligning to that, making sure that we've got that in place, because if you put in band-aid solutions, they are not going to meet your strategic goals in the future, and it could be a lot of cost. So with infrastructure, on-premise infrastructure, that you won't get back. You'll actually lose that money. So for instance, under process, which is under the efficiencies through digital, so seamless and efficient, apply automation to a lot of our processes going through. and some of the benefits is process efficiencies, cost savings across there. And the other one, like I say, people, we've got the digital workplace in place to be more collaborative and engaging. But how do we get the word out there? How do we talk about, okay, you know, these new ways in doing, say, human-centered design through digital workplace packages? How do we get the word out? Well, we set up communities of practices or community of excellence where we look at the quick wins, where people are really, okay, we did this and this only took 2 weeks and it used to take us 3 to 4 months. So being able to share and be able to collaborate is important. And that does wonders for employee satisfaction, being able to get people together and talk on those things. And the information there as well, so agile and flexible, ensure that we have the BYOD guidance, and that can lead to the better customer satisfaction and employees experience. Right. So I'm sort of pushing that point a lot, the focus on business outcomes. So maybe technology, a lot of technology involved with the digital workplace, but how does that go back to the business outcomes? So how does that achieve better customer service? How does that help the employee work? So that's a key takeaway. Ensure that the quick wins, ensure they meet strategic priorities. So ensure that everything goes back to the digital strategy, the ICT strategy. And if it doesn't, those strategies might need to be tweaked, updated, and changed. So the digital workplace investment now is important, as it is the new business as usual, unusual, business as unusual. So the thing is, there's a lot of costs, I guess, that everyone's experienced with COVID-19. But if there needs to be investment, is to help people work from home. It's definitely got to be in that area. And unfortunately, we've got a lot of investment in a lot of legacy apps and that sort of thing. But we need to channel that. We need to retire some of the infrastructure to channel into that digital workplace investment. I think most people agree with that. So quantify savings in cost and time to fund new investments. So this gets back to show me the data. Any new investment really needs to be looked at and analysed. So why do we need to spend 300,000 or 500,000 in the next 6 months on licenses for infrastructure? So we need to have that brought back to what's the strategic priorities going forward. Is this going to meet it? So technology is super important. So a lot of people talk about digital workplace and just technology, but it's really across that. People have got to be trained up and be able to use that technology. Processes got to be in place, policies and procedures to be able to do it, and the technology will come through. And the information and data is very critical going forward. Yeah, so consider the physical and behavioural changes as well as the virtual. So you have the virtual desktop workplace, but then it's going to change what's happening in the physical area, the office plan, and being able to plug and play. You've got universal USBs these days, and the ability to actually do that is important. Behavioural changes. So the behavioural changes is around that digital literacy, being able to have those check-ins, to be able to collaborate. Now we're moving towards the hybrid workforce. So we're moving to, say, 2 or 3 days working from home. How does that work? Some areas of all coming in, all the staff are coming in one day a week, just to keep that team cohesion. So how does that work with other teams? Where are they going to change as well? So the behavioural changes, and be able to not leave anyone behind and respond digitally. So talking about the human-centered design and the workshops, so ensure that people are from all levels involved in workshops, and ensure that the quick wins are done, and that they're addressed, and they can be addressed, and that meets long-term targets. So quick wins. So one of the things was around the quick wins was the actual having the meetings, online meetings, having the headsets needed, having the right equipment, everyone being tasked up, having a little bit of training, all those sort of quick wins in place, as well as doing proof of concepts and looking at how can we integrate things, how can we use these other technologies, and seeing what works. So if we focus on simplicity, it's able to bring everyone on board. So quickly have steps of how to use this technology, how to behave, I guess, in the virtual sense, and be able to get that digital workplace that everyone can love, and it's part of the culture now that people can enjoy. But I tell you what, I don't mind the odd coffee in town and stuff, and actually meeting people. I had a few meetings last week, and I just realised about 12 o'clock that, oh, hang on, I've had 3 coffees. I was getting all excited about actually meeting people again. So yeah, it's about that hybrid workforce going forward, and having the best of 2 worlds. There's definitely, you don't want to be at home 7 days a week, but yeah, and you don't necessarily want to be in the workplace 5 or 6 days a week either. So having that ability to have a couple of days at home and a couple of days, 2 to 3 days in the office is great, and having that digital workplace that is the same. You have the digital experience is the same if I'm working from home or if I'm working in the office. So, I've got any questions now? Andrew, have you got anything in the chat?
I haven't seen anything in the chat, but I can certainly provide a bit of a summary. If you just want to drop back to the takeaways, and I'll sort of just paraphrase, I guess, what we've heard. A great presentation, Nigel. It's sort of given us a lot to think about, because COVID business as unusual has probably brought forward, 5 years worth of changes into 3 or 4 months. And, you touched on, there's a potential for new business outcomes as a result of COVID. So we now have to think about things differently, which is really powerful. I think you gave us a roadmap for, some of the technologies that need to come into play, which are really transforming the way we do business. I think you talked about the people issues as well. As people don't need to be employed in the state of which they do the job. People can apply for jobs in Australia, anywhere, and work from home and still be able to generate the outcomes. You mentioned the other people's scenarios around leadership styles and communication, engagement models and things like that. So micromanagers and people who have strong rapport with lots of coffees with their team, it's not possible. So they have to find new ways of engaging with their teams. I think you touched on the commercial property adjustments around meeting spaces versus desks, the use of office equipment, no more butcher paper, no more post-it notes and things like that. You also talked about the technology, and I think that's pretty significant around the device layer, the applications involved, the infrastructure required to support that. I think that there's a lot of different adjustments in roadmaps that are now taking place as a result of a COVID-led scenario. So yeah, really thank you, Nigel. That was a very powerful conversation. Is there any questions at all that anyone would like to just put forward or reach out?
Yeah, Andrew, hi, it's Heidi.
Go, Heidi.
Hi, Nigel. I just wanted to get your take on distributed decision making. So I went along to the Enterprise Design Conference, I think it was the last year or the year before, that they had a lot of startups that were looking to distribute the actual decision making process. So there's clearer lines of accountability and having tools to be able to facilitate that. So I guess there's I'm seeing a lot of stuff that's enabling us to come together to do work, but what is your take on, do you think that we're falling a bit short on that kind of style of, do you think there's a different kind of evolution around accountability and governance with decision making that we can do a bit better with?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think that distributive model is good because I think that there's been the capacity for more people to make decisions with the with not being, you know, sitting in the office next to your team lead or your boss. The people have been given the responsibility for, firstly, to work hard, you know, to work on what they're doing. And I think moving to outcome based working from home has been a big thing. So I think that people have been given more chances to make decisions. But the other thing is we're still lagging on having that data to be able to make the decision. So still a little bit too much on gut feel on to make decisions. But I think like over the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to move to no decisions on new investments being made unless there's got the data behind it, and unless they have the opinions and the staff that can bring that to the boil. So it'll be definitely a big change. So I think, yeah, most people seem to have a lot more power on what they do. And the Gartner research that I showed on that slide that you can click on when we distribute the slides did say that the most popular topic of conversation for managers was around are my staff doing the job. However, so that was what it was, but only 10 to 15% were concerned about it, and that sort of changed a lot during COVID-19 towards where we are now. That the team leads and the managers are much more happier that they have control over it. It's more to moving towards outcome based. So for instance, beforehand, you're sitting in the office, you're doing your work, you don't necessarily have an update with your team lead or your manager once every couple of weeks, for instance. But this, with COVID-19 and the regular meetings every day, you're saying, this is what I've done and this is what I'm going to do. And you present your case and your manager might just say, okay, yep, go for it. So that decision-making is sort of being changed. And it's a move towards outcome-based.
You make some really good points, but just reading between the lines, and this is kind of something that I've been thinking anyway, there's like a lot of the large corporates have got very top-heavy hierarchical structures in place that inhibit rapid progress. So this actually disrupts the leadership model. If you kind of pull that thread, it disrupts that whole having a manager to manage, because it's a lot more with distributed decision making and empowerment. So that is distributed leadership. So I think it really challenges that whole middle manager layer, which is exciting.
Yeah, and there was quite a lot of tiger teams set up and that type of thing where that brought in people from different areas in the organisation, and there wasn't necessarily like a team lead person in there, and they were making decisions, and that was tremendous. And so I think it's one of the positives coming out of, you know, a really bad situation.
We certainly went through that. I've just left the travel industry, but having gone through that, it wasn't. It was all very much value-driven decision making as well. So what needs to happen versus what do I think, or what supports my position. So yeah, it's a really exciting time, and I hope that there's different leadership models that result.
Yeah, excellent.
Nigel, the implications for organisational structure, does that suggest flattening out, broadening scope? Yeah, there's fairly significant adjustments.
Yeah, and that definitely needs to be a lot of changes, because a lot of these decisions, so like what I presented today with the digital workplace, that goes across all areas. It means that, say, the HR area are fully involved in IT investment, those types of things. So having a flatter structure and being and people being free to talk to others, talk to the business. You know, how's this going to work? How's this IT solution going to work is important. So, yeah, like I found that particularly with the human-centered design workshops, it just brought in everyone in there, and there wasn't necessarily managers involved in those discussions. So, yeah, it's going to be a new world for sure.
Sure,
Yeah.
I'm quite interested in your thoughts in regards to change management. It seems to be a term that is barely used since COVID came on the scene. It's just more a case of let's just change, and all of that focus on cultural shifts doesn't seem to have carried through. How do you think digital workplace can embrace the need to change your organisation with you, change the culture?
Yeah, I mentioned digital literacy and culture change. I think like that's one of the big things. There's been a lot of pushback, I suppose, from the changes. A lot of people are used to the old way of thinking, but the change management, I think, with any technology introduction, the change management's, you know, super important, isn't it, Tony? Like to actually get that across. I worked for an organisation a few years ago that like had a mobility budget and putting out iPads and putting out tablets was successfully done technology-wise, but there was no change management. There was no actual and training of the staff. There was no, and you know, 2 months later they go out to the regions, etc. And there was, and the iPads and the laptops were in in a drawer, basically not being used. So that change management and being able to incorporate that and uplift that capabilities, yeah, super important. So yeah, I think Tony, I think the issue is things had to be done so fast. I think with COVID-19, you had to straight away, everyone was working from home, so they didn't get a chance to have that normal structure. But going forward, I think it needs to be included and always involved. So yeah, absolutely important.
I'll add to that too, Nigel, if I may. One of the significant challenges we had at Rio Tinto is making assumptions about our workforce. When we actually went and got the data about the demographics in the organization, we were just assuming, you know, that there were a lot of Gen Ys coming through, and we, you know, they were going to be technology au fait, and don't worry about it, she'll be right, as they came in to learn about how to use our systems. The challenge is that we have such significant technology debt in the organization that our systems don't work the way that Gen Ys and even the soon-to-be incoming Gen Zs are used to. They're antiquated and work incredibly inefficiently. So whilst we're preparing for this modern digital workplace, we actually have significant catch-up in terms of either dumping all the legacy we've got or refreshing our fleets so that they are suitable for our modern day time and ready for Gen Ys and Gen Zs who are, you know, incredibly technology au fait and aren't going to hang around if we've got dinosaurs in the company.
Yeah, definitely agree with that, Christine. And it's been demonstrated that we're not up there, and that's why I went back right to the paperless office. So the border situation is one of the examples of that we haven't really gone through that, not only paperless but post-process automated our processes to get to that stage that where the Gen Ys and would be comfortable, and they'd say, oh, this organization's a dinosaur because I got to do this, I got to do that. Can't I just log on and make it happen? Why isn't everything browser based? Can't I just bring it up on a browser, bring this app? So yeah, it's going to be a big thing. But I do think that the digital transformation has kicked off again quite well, and there's a lot more programs happening. Not on digital workplace just, but a lot of things around the digital transformation, and the move to the cloud is one of those things as well, Christine. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd also love to see some research coming out on whether this whole COVID business has brought us any better alignment between business and IT, or are we just seen as the stopgap to help us through COVID?
Well, as far as the work that I've done, I've seen the difference. So being able to do the human-centered design workshops with business from all different areas, that sort of wasn't done as much like 5 to 10 years ago. So I do think there's been a bit of a change, and I do think it's now the business as unusual, but I think there's been a bit of a change. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, some things won't go back to the way they were, but I think there's been a definite change of getting people involved and getting that removing that barrier between IT and business, because IT is just an enabler for the business to use. So moving on, all I had after that was just my contact information, and I was just going to mention that I'm developing a digital workplace course. So, and in a couple of weeks, in a few weeks, we're going to have a workshop in Miro, where we're going to look at some of the digital workplace changes that have come in place. So that's available to all you guys, and we'll get the information out shortly. So yeah, awesome.
Thanks so much,
Thank you,
Nigel.
Nigel.
Yeah, is there any other questions from the floor? Any other comments?
I've got a quick one. So one of the things that we're obviously very focused on is how to progress and change when COVID. The thing you mentioned there, Nigel, is how do we stop environments going back to the way they were slowly, progressively in the next 6-12 months after COVID?
Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I think it'll depend on the organisation and on that leadership, and kicking in place the capability uplift. So, got to keep it going and keep that digital workplace, like the changes happening, Andrew. So I think it's key, and there's been a lot of investment, unfortunately, in infrastructure, etc., to get the remote working happening. So hopefully that hasn't been done, and that can be wound back so that we can get some of the investment in, say, cloud workspaces like Amazon workspaces, Windows Virtual Desktop, get some of the SaaS tools in place that people want. Because, but I do really think that there's been that definite change, and there's, even in Brisbane where we don't have the lockdown laws really anymore, there's just no one in town as people get used to the ability to working from home. So
yeah, I mean, I can see it slowly slipping back in some folds, but I think we've had a bit of a revolution going forward. So I would hope that we go to a much more flexible working environment. Yeah,
I think that's probably the only positive that we've had. So I can tell you that when it was the period where we were locked down, and Melbourne's in that phase as well, it was tough. It was just a bit too much. So having that ability to come in a couple of days a week to have those face-to-face meetings, it'll be important. And it'll be interesting how the office environment changes. That's why I sort of brought that up, because some teams are all coming in for one day, and then some teams are having a staggered approach. But there's got to be a lot of changes to happen in the future. And I think if we can target the money to invest into that digital workplace and make that experience as good as it is in the office, I think that's important. If they can invest in that and start to retire these the infrastructure that they can get rid of, and hopefully channel that money towards it.
Definitely. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Andrew. It's interesting. There was the lead executive for the ANZ Bank for organisational change talked about the frozen middle in the organisation, and Heidi, we've had a couple of conversations around that, but she's literally got the catalyst now to unlock that frozen middle. And it'd be interesting to see how COVID is perceived in the next 12 to 24 months. And I don't think we've seen tip the iceberg in terms of adjustments to date. We're still dealing with the health issues of COVID, but the actual workplace will be a very different place in 12 to 24 months. And people that want to stay at home 5 days a week, different. It has appealed to different people. Other people are still very social, want to be engaged, kind of thing. So, Nigel, I guess, how do you think COVID might see digital design in 12 or 24 months?
Yeah, so the offices are already getting redesigned in the city, and they're closing down floors, etc. So I think the old open planned office will have to change. I think it needs to still be open in some points, but there needs to be a lot of meeting rooms. There needs to be ability to actually plug it in, because sometimes you go to offices and that's a Dell laptop. You've got a Dell laptop docking station there. You've got a Surface Pro one over there. You've got something else that's it really doesn't lend itself well to sharing desks and being able to do that. But I think there's going to be big changes. There might not be as many coffee shops, I suppose, in the city, but there's going to be it's going to be excellent. And the sweet spot, all the research is that having the workforce having some days at home and some days in the office is good. And interestingly, the recruitment policies may change to allow people to work remotely, completely, 100% of the time, and that can be done with some jobs. Some jobs that can be done, and even today, like on our Zoom call, it feels like you guys are part of the, right there. The advantage is we're able to share our screens. We're able to, if we had a document, we'd be able to do the document together and stuff. It was in Teams, so there's just so many advantages. Running workshops, I just find it so easy now on using, say, the Mural and the Miro. It's just fast and efficient. If you can quantify all the cost savings from training, from the ability, say for instance, if you had to go in the city, that's an hour travel, hour back, getting everyone in the one room. There's a massive cost saving that you've got. Unfortunately for me, I tend to work longer hours, but it's great having the kids here and being able to play with them in the afternoon and everything. So I'm enjoying it, but I do like to come in every now and again. So.
Excellent. Okay, well, there's no more questions. We'll get back to the presentation, the agenda. I'll just share my screen again. Thanks so much for that, Nigel. That was brilliant. It gives us a real good exposure to where we've been and we're about to go, which is really exciting part of it. So we've got the opportunity to talk about the next meeting topics for our next meeting. And so I guess we've put a couple of ideas there in play to sort of stimulate some of your thinking. And so looking at some ideas how to make governance go faster, maybe a live discussion on why projects fail, maybe getting executives to support you in a chat with an executive where they've had some success with the architecture function or, success stories with key executives. So, I just wondering if anyone wanted to put forward any thoughts, any recommendations, want to volunteer.
Heidi wants number 3.
Number 3, I think that'll be really useful. That's what we all have problems with, right?
Yeah.
So my suggestion over there is to actually bring in an executive who I'm not quite sure whether she's retired or whether she's just waiting for all of this jazz to finish before she comes out of hiding. She's actually in the US and has been a great mentor to me as well. Has been in a CIO role, has been my boss for a few years as well. And the timing would be great she lives in Florida, to get her on a call and us just throw questions at her around, some of the challenges that we have in terms of getting executives to support us and what are some of the things that she would suggest we could do to get executives to support us better. Number 3.
8 a.m. mid-afternoon for her.
Yep, that's it.
Tony, you would have a lot of experience as well in that area, being the CIO for many years.
Yes, I'll be happy to contribute.
Cool. Well, maybe you could share it with Debbie, Tony.
Sure.
That'll be good. So it's all not on one person. Yeah.
That'd be a good panel.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, we'll go with that then, yeah. If anyone else has any other thoughts? All good?
Good.
Cool.
Excellent. All right.
Our next meeting, I've just got to update that, sorry, Andrew. Our next meeting will be in 2 months' time, and it'll be round about the 14th of October.
Awesome.
Got it. Excellent.
Good.
Okay. I guess, yeah, Christine, you want to talk to us staying in touch?
Yeah, so we do have a LinkedIn presence for business designers for tomorrow. And just a reminder that this is a very open group because we do want to have people from multidisciplines to come and join us. So feel free to share this link with your friends so that we can get more members joining us. We definitely have more than just 8 members now. In fact, we have people joining us from all over the world to be part of this group. So you're very welcome to invite your friends and also post some questions, tell us what you're working on so that as a community, we can help support you with some thoughts and ideas as well. That's it from me, Andrew.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And
What we do.
excellent. All right. I think you've covered that one as well, yeah?
Yep.
Excellent.
All
All right.
Good. Any volunteers to host for next time? We've had Nigel, Andrew, and Heidi all host previously. Any takers? Let me see who else is online. John Rogers, what about you?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Nigel. Excellent presentation. Yes, I'd love to host the next one because there's a couple of ideas that came out of your presentation today. First one was you highlighted that the point of leverage for dealing with COVID was flattening the decision structure in organisations so that the normal 3 months, 6 months, 9 month delay in decisions was collapsed into a very short time period. And the second one is our response to COVID has been something similar to what a startup does. So the kind of work that we were doing was working more like a startup, or in the US, they call it think like a Marine. So the Marines developed a means of dealing with rapidly changing situations and what an organisation would look like to make decisions quickly. And as everyone here has highlighted, if we go back to normal, the decision rate will decline rapidly and go back to those monthly delays rather than hourly or daily delays. So I'm happy to give a presentation that starts by thinking like a Marine and doing the reverse of that, saying, what would we do what would we want our competitors to do to make their projects run slower? So, and that I've found to be a very helpful way of understanding what we actually do to ourselves to shoot ourselves in the foot when we're running projects as an organisation. Would that be of something of interest for you out there?
Yeah, absolutely, John. And we'll add it to the list. That's great.
Excellent.
And looking forward to you hosting the next session.
Yep.